Hello and welcome back to another Minecraft Dungeons build video, where today I'm going to be showing you guys a build that I created called the Diligent Diver. And this build specifically utilizes items from the Hidden Depths DLC. And yeah, let's check out what gear I am using for this build. And to start off with the weapon, I am using the Encrusted Anchor, which has Poison Cloud and Gravity. For the enchantments, I am using Guarding Strike, Sharpness, and Rampaging. Guarding Strike is to help keep me alive more and give me a small little shield, while Rampaging is there to try and increase the attack speed of this anchor since it is pretty slow. Next up for the armor, I am using the Nimble Turtle armor, which has built-in 35% damage reduction, a 25% healing boost, and a speed boost after being hit. As for the enchantments, I'm using Thorns, Cooldown, and Chilling. Thorns is to help deal a little more damage to some of these smaller enemies, which may be more difficult to kill because this anchor just hits so slowly. Cooldown is there to help me recharge all my artifacts since they're pretty much necessary for this anchor to work. And then Chilling is to help slow down enemies so I have more time to recover. Following that, for my bow, I am using the Nautical Crossbow, which fires harpoons and has a chance to fire piercing bolts. And then for the enchantments, I'm using Artifact Charge, Cooldown Shot, and then Levitation Shot. Cooldown Shot is there to help all my artifacts recharge even more quickly, and then I just chose Levitation Shot because it was pretty much the only good enchantment in that slot. And when I think about it, it could probably be pretty useful because since the anchor hits so slow, it will give me some more time to actually attack the mobs. Following that, for my artifacts, I have the Deathcap Mushroom, which will help me attack much more quickly with my anchor. Next is the Eye of the Guardian, which I chose because it's a part of the Hidden Depths DLC, and I also think it's a pretty good artifact, specifically for clearing distance enemies that are more bunched together. And finally, I chose the Fishing Rod because it fits the theme of the build and will help me get more powerful enemies closer to me so that my anchor can actually attack them. And lastly, I have a Gong of Weakening like usual for the bosses. And overall for this build, we are really just trying to get enemies close to me so that I can use my anchor because that is what's going to be really dealing the most damage. So for the first hit with the anchor, we are dealing about 2.3 million damage and then about 500,000 ticks with poison. And this damage should be it should probably be pretty much the only amount of damage that we're going to be dealing, since this anchor does not have any enchantments that give it increased damage over time, like Void Strike or Committed. Sharpness is really just there to make it deal more damage up front, since you really want to be one-shotting enemies with this. And then activating the Death Cap, we should be attacking much more quickly. And for a shot from our bow, we are dealing about 500 to 600,000 damage. Pretty good. It's shooting pretty fast too. And the piercing always seems to be activating, which is very convenient. And I think it's also shooting the harpoons. I don't know if it has any cosmetic change. It just looks like they're normal arrows, but pretty sure the harpoon effect is the piercing, which is also built into the crossbow. And then our fishing rod isn't really going to deal anything to this dummy. It isn't really for dealing damage, it's just for getting more powerful enchanted mobs closer to us. And then our Eye of the Guardian, dealing a pretty good amount of damage. It looks like it's about 50,000 per tick. And I know you've probably seen anchors deal a lot more damage before, but I really think that's just kind of overkill, and I had to go with the enchantments that I got for this anchor. I probably could have gotten a better one, but from all the testing I've done, it works pretty well. And now let's get into showcasing this build. Okay, so as you guys can see, I decided for today's showcase of this build, I'm going to go to the Abyssal Monument, which does have a boss at the end, so it'll be interesting to see how this build performs. Getting a pretty good amount of damage to all these enemies. Nothing to really worry about here. I'm one-shotting pretty much all of these smaller ones. The only worry so far is that I'm not healing too much because I have no artifacts or enchantments on my weapon to heal me. But Guarding Strike should help me a bit. There was Levitation Shot, which, like I said, is pretty nice for stopping the bigger enemies. Because it's pretty easy to get surrounded if you aren't attacking too fast with the anchor. The piercing will also be nice because you'll be able to attack more enemies quickly. Down here, I'm pretty sure there is a little mini boss. I think it's the Drowned Necromancer. Not 100% sure. As long as I keep my mushroom up, I'm attacking fast enough to not be too worried about dying. A little more damage. I activate this here, doing a pretty good amount of damage. Can't cancel it though, so that's the only issue. And I'm gonna go in as soon as these lightning strikes go down. Okay. I'm gonna afflict him with poison. Yep, he's done. Okay. Nice. I probably could have played that a little better by waiting to use my potion until after he had spawned. Just because it's kind of hard to heal without the potion. Okay, so I think for the rest of this build showcase, I'm going to leave you guys with a short compilation of me going throughout the level and defeating the boss. And then at the end, I'll get back to you with how this build performed. Okay, so overall this build performed pretty decently. It wasn't the best, it was definitely pretty hard to survive big groups of enemies and more powerful single enemies like enchanted mobs with thorns or fast attack. And then some of the bosses were a bit more difficult because I think the anchor really needs some different enchantments like maybe a leeching or committed to make it better, even void strike. But having all those super good enchantments on my weapon isn't really what I wanted for these builds. I wanted more niche builds that focus on specific little things. And what I like creating for this series is more like themed builds that take advantage of weapons that people typically don't use, along with armor and bows. Even some artifacts like the Eye of the Guardian, which isn't the best, but still helped. Overall, if you're looking to make any of these builds, I'd definitely skip out on this one. If you were to make something like this, I'd try and get a better anchor, maybe with better base enchantments, not more of these niche enchantments that aren't that good. Guarding Strike was pretty nice along with Sharpness, but I feel like Rampaging didn't activate that often. And if you could get it gilded in a higher level, it'd be even better because then you'd just be able to sweep through all levels just because of how much damage it gets over the next few levels, especially when you get it to 263 gilded from the tower. Unfortunately, I did not find one of those, but I still feel like mine performed decently. And to end off, if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next one.